Good afternoon and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Defining Virtuosity. I'm Odin Rathnam, professor of violin at Cleveland State University, and we are continuing our study of the Wohlfahrt etudes today with number 6, marked moderato. Again, you'll start to notice that I very often have my students work out the left hand actions in rhythm first before applying any bowing principles, and practice the actual bowings on double stops or open strings. So the pattern is 2 slurred, 2 separate, which can also be done 2 slurred down with 2 up bows. And that is a very, very fundamental bowing that we see already in some of the variations in Suzuki Book 1. The idea being that we have a longer stroke combined with 2 shorter strokes and another longer stroke combined with 2 shorter strokes. So, and the student can practice this on the 3 planes between G and D, between D and A, and between A and E, and get comfortable crossing. So, you know. This is a stroke that most country fiddlers can do in their sleep, and it's a very natural thing that we want to get comfortable with on the string before allowing the bow to bounce later. So that's one way of doing it. The other way that this is performed is with the combination of downs and ups. So we have down, up, up, down. And for this, again, I activate the student's fingers very early from the fundamental motions of the hand to catch the string and to be flexible that way. So those 2 strokes can be performed on a single double stop plane or crossing anywhere in the pattern. Or on one plane. By practicing those different combinations, we won't be as flummoxed when we have to combine string crossings with the note changes. In the left hand, before putting the 2 hands together, to bring the student into consciousness of the freedom of all of their left hand actions, I have them practice 4-note slurs. This results in some notes being played as 8th notes because there are many cases where the 3rd and 4th note of each 4-note pattern is the same pitch, played twice. So the practice methodology for focusing on the left hand, because 4-note slurs and 4- and 3-note patterns depending on what's printed. This middle section in C major and the line that follows, I watch them all of a sudden struggle a little bit and tighten, and it's because they break a couple of my left hand rules. The first is they start to squeeze in on the inside of the index finger against the E string side of the instrument, and with the thumb too hard and the fingertip pressure is harder when they're struggling to do these quicker adjustments combined with string crossings. So I like to have them really focus when they get to the 5th line of the etude carefully a few times, maybe from the last measure of the 4th line. that kind of an action, the contraction and the lift don't cause any extra tension in the hand. Or the 1 to the 4. And by really having them focus, they realize, oh, that can be organized more. And by organizing how extended or contracted the fingers are, again, I would refer you to the chapter on the left hand by Ivan Galamian, when talking about extensions and contractions and organizing the way that we lift and drop our fingers in a way that doesn't cause extra tension. A longer finger reaches sharper, a more curled finger reaches less sharp. The reverse is true for extending backwards. The more we curl the hind fingers, the further back they go, the bigger the pitch difference becomes. So if we're reaching back, we're curling fingers more. If we are reaching forward, we're extending fingers more. Generally speaking, it's more comfortable to reach back. So bear that in mind. But these actions of the left hand, being able to do a half step at a different point without tensing up the shoulder or the inside of the index finger or the thumb, requires some attention when we're doing that portion of the etude. So you would continue through some C major. Having studied it this way, we now know that we can sort of count on the left hand, and we can begin to introduce the bowing pattern of down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So we'll do it first on the string. So on and so forth. Once we've gone through the etude that way, I would like to encourage the student that is fluent to increase the speed slightly, move towards the balancing point, and let the bow start to hop on its own. I'll back up a little bit so you can see this. The bow, let's get the bow on the G and D string, because this is where it has the best conditions for bouncing. It's horizontal almost to the floor. The strings are also horizontal almost to the floor with the scroll well up. And the bow's ability to bounce is best when there are 30 grams of weight to either side of the stick. And that's somewhere in here. You'll have, if the average bow weighs about 60 grams, your balancing point of the bow, where you could, sort of balance it on a finger if you wanted to, is going to be somewhere there, right? Mais or menos, So that's a good place to work on this stroke. I would leave the fingers relatively curled. If you look on the chapter in the right hand in the Ivan Galamian book, the position of the hand for the penetrating sound, that doesn't mean we press more. We're not going to use a very penetrating sound, but it keeps the bow more glued than if we do this. Okay? So we'll keep our fingers relatively curled, the thumb bent. And with that stroke, the bow will bounce slightly. And we go through the study that way from start to finish. The next stroke that we'll do is down, up, up. And again, it's done both slowly and more quickly. In the beginning, very consciously. Catch, catch. as I go faster, I move a little bit away from the frog and make sure that the arm is hanging. At all times, you'll recall from some of my other videos that I talk about 3 conditions for a good right hand sound that I like to think of, and maybe other teachers have their other conditions. But my 3 conditions are that I like the arm to be hanging, I like the wrist hinge to be free, and I like the fingers to have caught the string well, that there's good contact this way, yeah? That we're in the string, hanging, and I can wave to the queen. My wrist is free side to side and vertically, okay? That all of those things, that this hinge isn't locked. The reason for all of the collé strokes that I teach and everything else is to make this relationship of the bow to the hand like a joint, so that the bow truly becomes an extension of our arm, just a part of us, yeah? This becomes a part of this side of me, and this becomes a part of the other side of me. Very, very comfortable right here. We want to really create a natural relationship. It's awkward enough to play the violin, but if we don't search for the easiest way, then it's even harder. So in this piece, you start slowly with the left hand rhythm, checking the finger actions, softening the fingertips, dropping in such a way that the center of gravity is right behind the first joint of the finger, and the fingers are turned into a position where they could play fifths, and the fingers are curled and collapsible in the first knuckles. So very jointless. You want to feel as jointless as possible, not locked in any way. We then add the bowing practice of which will be very slow and broad. So you can play as you go faster, less bow, keep the contact. So closer even to the bridge, slow the bow speed down. The faster you go, almost think the reverse, that you're slowing the bow speed more and more. And if you think of slowing the bow speed in the faster tempos, it'll stay stickier, and it won't go ahead of the left hand, which is very important for correlation, that the left hand is always in place before the strokes. All right, it's like what it says in the Suzuki book: left hand, right hand, go. You know, note, bow, go. You have to have an order of actions, and that correlation is very important in violin playing. There you have it, Etude number 6, Moderato. Again, thanks to my sponsor Jim Grandin for his underwriting of the Wohlfahrt 60 studies. Have a great day, and if you enjoyed this, I hope you'll subscribe and share with friends. Take care.